Well, hi, this is John Sarver, and welcome to another My Solar Story Zoom presentation. And these are sponsored by Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association and the Michigan Solar Users Network. And so tonight, I'm kind of very pleased to have Rob and Dan from Absolute Solar talk to us tonight about a couple of solar projects they've done this past year in Meridian Township. And this is part of the, I live in Meridian Township, and it's been my pleasure to work with these guys and other staff from Absolute Solar. But it's part of our overall effort. The township has a goal of getting, for municipal operations, 100% of our electricity from renewable energy, which in our case will be a solar, rooftop solar or ground mount solar. So with that, let me turn it over to Rob and Dan. And yeah, like every time we do this, please mute yourself until we get to the end of the presentation. There should be lots of times for questions and answers after Rob and Dan have a chance to kind of give you the basics of what's going on in Meridian Township. Rob and Dan, it's your show.
All right. Thank you so much, John. Appreciate it. Really happy to be here. Thank you all for attending. Really excited. Looks like a good turnout today. So that's great. We're excited to share with you what's been going on with the township and the projects we've partnered with them with. It's been a real honor to work with Meridian Township. And then basically just to kind of jump right in here, this process started the end of last year. And specifically what we're going to be discussing is the fire station on Okemos Road, and then also the new marketplace pavilion behind Meridian Mall. And we just did a solar array that are now up and running on both of those sites. And now, originally when this process started, the plan was to do 20 kilowatt arrays at both project sites. But during the process, during our analysis, we determined that, in the interest of the township, we wanted to make sure that the investment was being used the most efficient way possible, which is why we actually did a kind of a reanalysis of where that production we think should go, especially because the marketplace is a new build. We do not know the electric use there. So we want to make sure we're offsetting use where we know it exists. So it ended up turning into basically that additional production we moved over to the fire station. So that array is quite a bit larger. And then the marketplace is basically built on the building there. That's the utility building. And I'll show photos of all this and I'll kind of walk you guys through it. And now I'm going to share my screen with you and show you some of these images and photos, and then we'll walk you through the size and basics of the system, what it's producing, and some more details about the install itself. So with that, I will do my screen here. All right. So here we're looking at the basic design for the fire station that's currently in place. And then here we have your rooftop, that same design. And then I'm going to let Dan kind of take it from here and give you some of the basics, about both of these systems. So Dan, if you want to go ahead and sort of share that with everyone.
Yeah, so for the fire station, as Rob mentioned, we determined that it was going to be a lot more useful to really put as much solar there as we could for the township for this kind of initial rounds of helping them move closer to their sustainability goals. So this system ended up being 114 320 watt panels, which brings it to a total size of 36.48 kilowatts. And kind of some of the initial construction things we needed to consider was the unique roof structure of the fire station. I mean, as you can see, it's a pitched roof. It has the asphalt shingles, but unlike a typical pitched roof, it doesn't have wooden rafters like you would, in your typical home. Those 2x4 rafters spaced 2 feet apart. This is kind of more of a hybrid where it's built more like a, it's a commercial building. So it's got that steel framing, metal decking without rafters that were easily accessible for us to kind of anchor into. Because without this being a flat roof, even though it's not a steep pitch, it is 312, it's about 14 degrees. So we did need to have some anchored connections there. So what we did is basically the substrate of the roof, you've got your shingles, and then you have the roof decking, which is on top of some insulation. And then below that is the metal roof structure. So we decided what was going to be best is to go with anchors that would connect directly to that roof deck board. So Rob, if you even want to click over to another photo with the racking, might be, yeah, so there you can sort of see the black anchors there with the rails attached to it. So that's anchored right into that roof deck board. And then from there, we were able to attach the rails, and then it kind of became, more of a typical pitched roof install at that point. It was mainly just getting those anchored connections to the building.
And also just to kind of follow up on that, give you a little bit more basics on this system. And here we have our racking photo here, panels going up on that boom lift, and then here's sort of install in progress. You can see we have one more row to go, and then I'm going to pause there for just a moment. But the production here we're looking at is roughly 44,260 kilowatt hours a year. And then based on the previous 12 months of the fire station here, offsetting approximately 58% of that. And then the approximate savings, based on that utility information, roughly $5,916 per year over the 25-year, material lifespan there, warranty, even though this is going to last, many years after that and still be producing. And then over that 25 years, saving the township roughly $196,500. And that's accounting for recouping purchase cost and factoring in a utility rate increase on average. And then some of the stuff I enjoy talking about the most is the environmental benefits are offset. And with this system, just specifically the fire station, this is roughly the equivalent offset or carbon offset of 20,347 trees. Or removing 78,568 or 66 miles per year of a combustion engine vehicle. And so that's some of those great highlights that come along with the production itself. And then Dan, if you want to kind of maybe explain what we're seeing here in this photo before I move on.
Yeah, and to just give a little more information about the material used. So this photo in particular, if you notice kind of by the garage door, those are the 3 inverters for this system. This is the solar panels used here and at the marketplace as well are Silfab solar panels, as you'll see in the photos were of the finished system. They're a real nice all black panel. They have a really nice aesthetic. They're really sleek. We're a big fan of these panels. So it's the Silfab panels, and then it's a central inverter system with those 3 inverters. The fire station is a 3-phase building, so it's the Solar Edge 3-phase inverters. 2 of them are 14.4 kilowatts, and 1 is 9 kilowatts. Part of that sizing was just to make sure we didn't have any clipping for production. So we made sure that the AC was sized big enough so that DC didn't experience any clipping. This also comes with the Solar Edge optimizers. So those are attached to each of the panels. Optimizers are great. They do, a couple big things. One is they do rapid shutdown, which is an electric code requirement, a safety feature. They also do panel or module level monitoring. So when we're looking at the system, we can see what each individual panel is producing, which is really cool. People love that. It also allows us, if there's any troubleshooting that needs to be done with this system, we can kind of see exactly where those issues are occurring and get straight to it without having to do too much troubleshooting work.
Yes.
And the optimizers also increase production too, because with a typical string system, your string and your system is only going to be as strong as its weakest point. So if you have shading on, let's say, a corner of the system, or if one panel has snow, the entire thing is only going to be able to produce at, what that weakest point can. With the optimizer, you're optimizing each individual panel. So if one panel's shaded, if one panel's covered in snow, those will produce less, but the rest of the system will still function at its full potential, which is another great reason that we, decided to go with the Solar Edge kind of infrastructure on this one. So yeah, again, it's the SILFAD panels, the nice all black look with the 3 Solar Edge central inverters. Was able to, really get it done for the fire station on this one.
Yeah, I mean, we love how this turned out. I think obviously, we get excited about really every solar system, but really do think this looks wonderful, for the township and is going to be producing a ton, as we kind of already walked through. Another nice thing too is SILFAD, they do carry the 30-year power output warranty, which is industry leading, and all of them are produced in North America, either in the United States or Canada, which we do like that as well. I'm just going to kind of show you guys a couple more photos here, just from different angles. And here we're up on the roof. I'm just sort of looking down from that other angle. And then we will be circling back to the marketplace and give you some more basics on that as well here in a moment. And then here we got that image from above, a nice sunny day, get that reflecting sunlight. So that's always nice to see. Really high production day there. And then here we have, and I'm going to circle back to this, but yeah, so here is the marketplace. And then this is the design there. And then just to give you some basics on that marketplace, that's the 12 panels. Same, just like Dan said, same panels, optimizer system. This is 3.4 kilowatts, producing 4,906 kilowatt hours a year approximately. Now this was a new construction, as you can see here. And so we weren't able to definitively say, what our financial offset is going to be here, just because we don't have those build data, at this point. But what we do know based on production itself is that this would be offsetting, approximately 2,255 trees worth of CO2, and then removing 8,708 miles driven by a combustion engine per year. So here's just a couple more images of that. This new marketplace pavilion, which is amazing new build here. So excited to see the farmers market there in action. Hopefully this summer, or obviously in the future. Yep. So really great facility here. I'm really happy we were able to get some solar production, to help offset it, and then we will see what offset that gets us to once there is actually data that we can access. Another picture from above, and then I am going to show you guys here in a moment a couple images of our graphs. So here, just to give you an example, is the week of January 9th to the 16th. Here at 2021 at the fire station. And so during that week, as you can see, we have some days that are sunnier than others, which is to be expected. But during that week, it was able to produce 284 kilowatt hours. And granted, this is January, so this is only going to get better. But so far the system really has been cranking out that production. And then I also wanted to show you a couple individual day examples too. Here we have on the 23rd, which was a nice sunny day. You can see that really nice slope. That's really ideal. Working its way up, from sunrise to sunset, with a little bit of clouds there. It looks like, in the afternoon. But for the most part, that was a really sunny day. And then, here even better, really nice sloping graph here that was November 6th. Another good example of that production. And then just one more for you, and this was on December 10th, another sunny day, some shade in the afternoon, as you can see, but it, produced a lot that day. So that's a good example of what the system's capable of, and this is obviously just going in the summer. And so, yeah, that is the end of this slideshow. So let me now, I do have a video to show you guys as well. This is a drone video of the fireplace in action during construction, just to give you another look at that in this install process. So I'll just play this for you. Oh no. I'm sorry. Well, okay. Maybe we won't have the video. All right. Well, here, I'll circle back to this for now. And so here I wanted to share with everyone what the township is actually providing for everybody if they wanted to look at these systems. It's a great resource. So this can be found on Meridian's website, and it actually highlights the different systems that Meridian currently has. And we will be updating this here not too long with some more photos that you've seen today, along with some more information on these two systems that we just did. But from here, yeah, you can look at the array on the township hall, which is the ground mount there. This is the marketplace, the fire station, and then also the Harris Nature Center with some great photos of other installations that the township have done. So there's been a lot of great projects, working towards that sustainability goal. And we're really proud of the fact that we can help Meridian get there. And so there is, work to be done. There's, more offsets to come, but this is a great start. And these arrays combined are taking a lot of carbon off the grid right now and helping to work towards that goal. So I encourage you all to check this website out at the township. It is a really great resource for everybody, and we will be adding some things to it over time here. But yeah, I'm going to stop my screen share. So that's kind of the some of the basics on both of these systems. And I really would love to take any questions if anybody has anything at all they'd like to ask. We'd be happy to answer them. Yep. Oh, I think you're muted there, Yasmina. I can't. Can you guys hear?
No.
I cannot.
Here, Yasmin, try to work on getting your voice going. There was initially a question in the chat room from Janice about, the inverters are outside. Are there any issues with having the inverters outside at the fire station?
There aren't any issues. One of the the main reason they're outside at the fire station is just that there wasn't a room inside for them. With them being 3 and the utility room there was pretty full of electric panels, so the space was limited. The inverters are rated for outdoor use. So basically the main thing you want to avoid if you're mounting an inverter outside is you just don't want it in direct sunlight. So you want to stay away from the south side of the building. North would be ideal, but really, east or west face isn't going to give you too much trouble.
Well, and that's the north face where these are mounted. So that as far as an exterior inverter mount, that's an ideal.
Go ahead,
Can you
Mindy.
hear me now?
Oh yeah, yes, it's back. Go ahead.
Okay, just, are there any incentives, special incentives for the municipalities? I was just impressed by how much they're doing out there in Meridian Township, and if there were some things that we could be encouraging other municipalities to do.
I think, John could probably help me with that one, as far as municipal level incentives. John, I don't know if there were any that came to mind in particular for you. I know there are some grants out there. I tend to believe that there might be some more to come, in the next few years that will be, municipal based grants, things like that, or incentives. And I think, John Sarver and John Freeman probably both be good resources to answer that question.
Yeah, no. By the way, Rob, you're kind of going in and out at times. I'm not sure why. So sometimes we hear you fine, and other times you're not coming through exactly clear. But
no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, related to the funding, we're hopeful, of course, with the new administration in Washington that there might be some grant money maybe coming down to local governments to kind of help with solar and other climate actions. But so far what's happened is as soon as the township established a goal of 100% for renewable energy for electric operations for the township, the first year they appropriated just out of township funds $50,000, which was used for that 20 kilowatt system you saw in front of the municipal building. And then that had gone so well that the next year, which is the year we just left, they had appropriated $100,000 for the two systems. And what's happened this year is everything's going so well that the township has appropriated $300,000 for this year. So we're expecting to have a system at our service center that'll be over 100 kilowatts. And so we are kind of plugging away. We certainly would not turn away any grant money, but you know, we're not waiting for that to happen because so that's.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
so, John, these systems were purchased outright from the budget?
Right.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, we did look at a PPA approach, and the township decided that, you know, they would prefer just to own the systems, which, you know, is,
Better.
if you can afford to do it, it's the best way to do it. Most of you on the call know the PPA approach is where power purchase agreement, a private entity retains ownership of the system and then takes the tax credits and then sells the power to the local government. So that's a good option too. Meridian Township had money available, and so that it worked well for us.
Do they have a green revolving fund that they were able to draw from, or how did they fit that in their budget?
Well, we do have an energy savings fund that's used for energy efficiency projects, but and that's been very helpful over the years to kind of fund some you know, lighting projects and other types of projects. But actually for this, these solar projects, it was just a capital outlay.
Wow.
And just under budget too, on that last project.
Let's see, Yasmina had a question. Yasmina, did you have a question?
No, I asked it. It was about how the municipality had funded it. So thank you.
Okay. Okay. Other questions, just, you know, unmute yourself and go ahead and ask.
So this is John Gorley, for Robert or Dan. And on the fire station, you had 3 inverters for 3-phase power. Is that one inverter per phase, or are they just 3 inverters that are producing 3-phase power all in parallel with each other?
Yeah, so it's the latter. It's each one is producing the 3-phase 208 volt electricity. And the reason for the 3 is just to size it correctly to get us to, you know, for covering the DC size of the system. So they went to multiple different electric panels. You know, the building being a commercial building, you know, it's the setups, you know, got a lot more going on than you know, a standard house. So basically, that was another benefit too, is we could feed those separate areas of the building, you know, through those separate inverters. But yeah, the inverters themselves are doing all the, you know, that DC to AC conversion into the 3-phase to get straight to the service panels.
And made sure to design it without any clipping.
Correct. Yeah.
So that explains why one of the inverters couldn't be smaller than the other. That's what caught my attention, that I assumed they were one for each phase, and why in the world would one leg of the system be smaller, but you've answered.
There was a question in the chat room about the buyback rate. I assume the reference is to net metering, and since this was done last year, both buildings.
Both are net metered. Yep.
Yeah, they're both net metered, and they're grandfathered for 10 years. So it's
This is consumers?
Yeah, they got in right before
Yes.
the deadline,
Right
which was
before.
great.
yeah, it's consumers' energy. Yep.
Yeah.
The new
Yeah, consumers-
distributed generation tariff came into effect, January 1st, I guess, and these systems were in
Yeah.
place in October or November or something like that.
October.
Was
Yeah,
the
end of
system-
October.
Sorry, was the system sized to handle 100% of the electricity cost?
58%
Okay.
at the fire station. And it is still an unknown at the marketplace, just because it's brand new, which is why we were kind of advocating, let's put the production where we know we're going to get offset, which is why instead of doing the 2020, we, suggested doing the, this version, which would be the 36.48 and the 3.84. And then with the fire station, we can actually, do a calculation of return on that investment. But with the marketplace, we can't yet until we have that financial data. But over the 25-year span, I think I'd mentioned this, but $196,500 worth of savings after recouping purchase costs, and that's just the fire station. There'll be more there once we can actually calculate the marketplace, but we need that use data before then.
Right. So given those conditions, we just wanted to make, we thought it would be most beneficial to, since the township was kind of capping the project at 40 kilowatts, let's get as much of that 40 kilowatts at the fire station where it's most needed. Obviously the marketplace is going to use, a decent amount of electricity. So we'll see what that 3.84 does over the course of this year. Which is, with that marketplace, we had to negotiate with consumers to get anything allowed to be installed there, since there was no historical data. So certain people at the township, Leroy, Harvey, a couple other people were really helpful in gathering data from the old farmers market.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that was convincing, consumers that, they should really care about this data. But with, being able to show kind of what the electric panel was built for, that there's going to be, upwards of 4 food trucks, you're going to have all sorts of vendors. We were able to work with them. Consumers is a little easier to work with than DTE. So we're thankful for that. So consumers, it was a little bit of a back and forth for about a month, but they ended up allowing this current size system at the marketplace. And then when we can see after a year or more of data, then if the township wants, they can start adding solar there as well to kind of help offset anything that isn't being already offset by the system that we put in October.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that nice metal roof that's south facing. If there was an expansion, there is room for that. But yeah, that back and forth with consumers, we had to, I think we showed, how many 220 outlets are there? I mean, and just kind of really bolstering that argument that there is going to be more than this use. So we were able to get approval and get it both into net metering, which was great.
Of course, the fire station has an advantage in that it's a 24/7 operation. So, that's kind of nice when you have solar, because they use a lot of power on site. But one advantage with the marketplace on the green is that is a very visible demonstration of solar energy, and the farmers market gets a lot of traffic. So from an awareness educational perspective, the farmers market there was just an ideal location to kind of just expose people that solar works. If you have a question, just unmute and go ahead.
Yeah, this is Roger. How do you fasten the panels to a metal roof?
Yeah, so I mean, it really depends on the type of metal roof. The easiest is if it's just, your standard 1-inch metal seams, you can just clamp right to that seam and you don't need to make any sort of penetration. At that point, there's different types where with that clamp, it can have a built-in, basically you can have a railless system where the clamps not only clamp to the seam, but then they also can clamp to the panels. Another way is just you would attach rails to those clamps and then just build your system from there like you normally would. One thing with the marketplace is and a lot of metal roofs is you get more of a trapezoid shaped seam. Those, it really depends. There's a lot of different kind of clamp and brackets out there. A concern that we did have with the metal roof at the marketplace is it's brand new, it looks great. Because of the trapezoid shape, you would have to do a bracket that has screws going through that metal roof. They would be sealed and everything, but from the underside, you would be able to see those screws, which isn't going to look great. Usually like a pole barn, if it's got the trapezoid seams, you also have, from the underside of the roof, you can't see that part, so the the penetrations that are made aren't as big of a deal from an aesthetic standpoint. But yeah, it really depends on just what the seam structure of the metal roof is, and if you're going to use a clamp with no penetration or a bracket that would need the penetrations to connect.
This is Frank Baker. I'm just curious if there have been any steps taken to increase the energy efficiency of the facility before you embarked on the solar project.
Well, actually, the energy efficiency has been improvements have been going on in the township for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. There was, to answer your question though, Frank, there was nothing specifically done at the fire station before the solar, but the township has been working energy efficiency across all the buildings for quite a while now.
Thank you.
Back to the mounts that's on the asphalt but metal deck underneath on the firehouse. What specific brand is it, and how do the mounts work? Are they like a seal built into the mount that you put like 2 sheet metal screws through, or what do those consist of?
Yeah, so it's the Sunmoto Nano deck mounts is the specific material that was used there. And it's got a rubber gasket seal along the bottom, and then it's got 4 lag screws that also have their seal. That screws that underlayment was a 5-inch nailable decking. So it's pretty easy for us to just anchor right into that. But you put sealant on the bottom of it. You've got the rubber gaskets.
And the asphalt.
The flashing's kind of built right into it. Yeah.
The shingle attachments were just conventional roofing nails into that same decking?
Yeah, conventional. Yeah, well, they're just conventional like lag screws, like a 3-inch lag screw.
Okay, yeah, that's neat.
And then at the marketplace is a very, just like any house, it's got, your wood rafters 2x4 every 2 feet. So that was with the Iron Ridge flash foot. So basically the flash foot kind of slides up under the shingle course above it, and it's just 1 lag screw into the rafter, which is also sealed. And then it's built-in flashing, so the water is going to go around that raised lag screw connection point.
Another question I had was about the 2 locations in the township. Are each one of those metered separately, or do they get to pool all of their usage and production all in one bill with the utility?
Be separate. Both net metered, but on those separate meters.
Yeah, they're metered separate. Yep.
Sorry,
Net meter. The fire station it's a category 2 system, so it gets that the net metering for category 2. It's the retail rate minus distribution charges, so slightly less. It's more like a 90% of your full retail rates, and then the marketplace is a category 1 size project. The difference in category 1 is up to 20 kilowatts. Category 2 is anything over 20 kilowatts. But yeah, separate locations, separate meters. So that's part of the reason why the marketplace will have to see what that use is over the course of the year, so we can really dial in where how much solar is needed. This is this first year is kind of a trial run to see where that ends up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I bet you're pleased that consumers doubled its cap to 2%.
Yes, very much so.
It's
would have liked
better
to,
than
I would have liked to have seen them actually, consider that value survey of solar as well. But we will take the doubling of the cap for now, and I will continue to be optimistic that the distributed generation rate will become a little bit more fair value, let's say, for the power.
Well, the value of solar wasn't whacked. It's been incorporated into the study that the Public Service Commission will do as a result of Senate Resolution 142, which is a broader study. And so if you read the actual opinion, they're going to do the value of solar. And my understanding is that they've already retained a third-party consultant who is a fairly progressive pro-solar consultant. So
Yeah, and I'm optimistic. It's just when you combine one of the lowest distributed generation rates in the country while also being able to charge one of the highest rates simultaneously, it's a bit of having your cake and eating it too. So I just disagree with the percentage that they're giving.
no,
Distributed generation.
No, we disagree with it as well. But I guess the silver lining is the more that consumers raises its rates, the more that the underlying financials for installing solar improve. And then maybe we need to think in terms of going more behind the meter by incorporating some battery storage into systems so that people don't even think about putting the extra electricity back on the grid. They just store it, then use it.
And that's definitely the future, especially considering the lower distributed generation rate. I think that's going to become more and more feasible with time as battery costs come down. It is a little bit behind panel costs, so we need to give that market a few years. I think with the massive increase in EV production, that will inherently start to bring down cost of batteries simultaneously. We're getting there. But yes, that is the future. Absolutely.
Great.
The fire station is one place that they really need a generator, and I saw one in the pictures there. And maybe installations like that, you could pitch, hey, you could probably save some of the cost or all of the cost of the generator if you had a battery system, especially if you have that much solar. It's still going to be potentially a tough sell because people like simplicity of a diesel generator. But
right. Yeah, no, that is a good point. I think batteries will slowly start to be able to replace the generic generator. There is a nice big one there, at the fire station, for obvious reasons, the nature of the building. But yes, it's kind of just, those battery prices just need to come down more. They're still, for what you get, especially with the need for housing of batteries, it can become quite expensive. Because you need that temperature controlled space. So there's variables there that a generator doesn't have at this time, but the technology is moving so fast. And I really think in a few years, some of these sticking points and cost issues will start to fade away. But we're almost there.
yep, you can also sell the point that you do not need to have like an underground fuel storage tank anymore that's going to poison the neighborhood wells.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Too.
Yep.
Yeah, the township has an energy team, and we were kind of talking about backup generators and use of batteries for that. But the backup generators at the township is natural gas, and so it's kind of like it's not something they want to get rid of because we don't have the diesel backup generators. Yeah. But one thing we are looking into is, but I don't think battery prices are there yet. A number of our buildings are on demand rates. And so we've been at least talking about the issue of can we use solar plus battery to kind of manage our peak demands to reduce our demand charges. So that's something we're kind of continuing to kind of look at. But I like Rob has said, I don't think battery prices are there yet, but it's probably coming pretty soon.
Do consumers or DTE, anybody in Michigan have a demand charge rate?
Oh yeah, all the commercial buildings are on demand rates. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
the
rare
larger
for
commercial
residential,
buildings.
but commercial, it's pretty common.
Okay.
Yeah, and in fact, a lot of the electric bill for the bigger municipal buildings are the demand charges there as much as the kilowatt hour charges. Yeah, so it's a cost consideration. Yeah. One thing that's going to be interesting down the road, and this is just being talked about, is because we're working our way around all the buildings, and the public safety building and municipal building where we have the 20 kilowatt system, it only provides a small percentage of the electricity being used. And so after we do the service center, we're looking at those two fairly large buildings, and we are looking into having carports in solar on top of carports is maybe a good option in that situation. But that's down the road. Yeah. Other comments or questions? Just unmute yourself and go ahead. Okay, I think, hey, thank you, Rob and Dan. This has been great, and appreciate you guys taking your time to kind of tell us about the two installations. I think Janice has a question. Oh, she's clapping. Okay. I think she's clapping. Yeah, thank you guys. And I should mention that next Thursday, we're trying something new. We're going to do an energy Q&A. Whenever we've had these, there's been a lot of questions and answers about all sorts of stuff. And next Thursday, again, 7 to 8, the format will be just bring your question, and somebody in the group will try to answer it. So yeah, bring your questions. Some of you bring some answers, and so that'll be we'll just see how it goes. But I know we've had such great discussions that I think it'll be a good session just to have kind of a more open discussion about the variety of things that are going on. Oh my goodness. So any last questions or comments before we adjourn? Go ahead, Frank.
Just curious, is Meridian Township planning other solar installations in the near future?
Yeah, this year we're in now, we have $300,000 budgeted for our service center where, we do all the vehicle maintenance and we have some offices there. So that'll be over 100 kilowatt system. And actually that's, maybe Rob could mention this. You're in that building, you're getting close to 100%, right?
100% offset is absolutely possible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Of course, we'll be a 100 kilowatt system. Well, of course, net metering won't exist for that building, so it'll be a little different situation. But that building uses a lot of power, doesn't it? Quite a bit.
Oh yeah, every day.
Yeah, it consistently uses a lot of power. So.
Hey, John, can you talk about how Meridian Township decided in the first place to spend money on this stuff? I mean, is it just everybody loves solar and, like near Lansing, or like, how did you convince everybody to do that? Or maybe it wasn't you, but.
No. What was interesting was the energy team decided to develop a climate sustainability plan. And we put in the climate sustainability plan, that goal of 100% renewable energy for electricity for township operations. And so when the township board unanimously approved our climate plan, they also approved the 100% renewable energy goal. And when they approved it, they were serious about getting there. And so that's how it all got started.
Did you have any any input from the voters to make that happen, or just the township board just wanted to?
Yeah, basically it was the township board, but the community, I think, is very supportive. And, before it went to the township board, it had gone from the energy team to the environmental commission and then on to the township board. So there was input in that sense from the environmental commission. But there was no public hearing or anything. It's just the township board said, hey, we have goal of 100%. So when they did their budget, they said, well, let's start working on it.
100% by when, John?
2035.
Okay.
But I should mention, because when we decided to do the 100% goal, and actually Frank brought this point up about energy efficiency. The decision was that we would have a goal of reducing our energy use by 30%. And so that's part of the factor in order to get to 100% renewables. And also we take into account the fact that our utility Consumers Energy is going to be increasing their amount of renewable energy too. So our 100% goal doesn't mean 100% on-site generation. It also includes us reducing our electric use and taking into account that the utility is providing us power now that's going to increasingly be more and more renewable. So that's kind of how we came up with the 100%.
Good. And that's just for city buildings? I mean, for government buildings, not for the whole community?
No, that's just for city buildings, right? Yeah, yeah. The whole community would be many, many megawatts of electric power.
Much bigger challenge, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
But that also follows, I think there's a couple other, leaders in the state. I mean, you look at Traverse City, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, all of those communities are doing something very similar. So there are several examples of kind of, leaders in the state, moving towards this renewable future and sustainability.
So you didn't have to prove to the township board how you were going to get there when you set the goal? Did you just?
Actually, I was kind of surprised the energy team didn't get more questions about that. No, they kind of had faith, I guess, that we had done our homework. So they approved the climate plan, including the 100% goal. And then they, like I said, they almost immediately started working on it. And actually they started, in the larger scheme of things with, 20 kilowatts is not a huge system. And so they were kind of going, okay, let's start small and see how it goes. And, after the first 20 kilowatt system, the assistant manager and everybody was so happy with the results that then, like I mentioned earlier, they started appropriating more money. So it is helpful, I think, sometimes to, even if you have a 100% goal, to start relatively small, just to kind of get everybody comfortable with what you're doing.
The first step is having a energy team or committee as part of your township planning.
Yeah.
I don't think that my township has any comprehension of. I haven't really looked to see like what's in the budget, how much do they spend on electricity, stuff like that. I would imagine. Well,
the other thing I should mention too is the township does have Leroy Harvey is our environmental programs coordinator. So needless to say, that's very helpful to have somebody whose job is not just energy, but he does recycling and all the various environmental efforts. So having somebody on staff who's responsible for this sort of stuff, needless to say, is very helpful. And then having a group of volunteers, and Roger's on the Zoom here. He's one of our volunteers. There's about 5 or 6 of us that work with Leroy every month. And that's very helpful because he's just one person.
Yeah, the one thing the one thing I might add too is for communities who, it might be the environmental aspect might not be the motivating factor. I mean, we are at a point, where panel prices and production efficiency, where, I mean, the financial aspect is there as well. So I definitely think that there is, this makes sense from both, sides of that equation at this point. Now, 10, 15 years ago, that the financials maybe, didn't add up as much as they do now. But, where the price per watt panels, prices have gone, efficiency going up simultaneously, it's a good investment, either way. So I'd like to think that regardless of who you might be talking to, there are inroads, that can be found.
yeah, I think that financially, like showing the business case for it is really the main thing, because other stuff starts to get political. And even
I agree.
Even if you just say solar panels, it can become political. But if you say, what are we spending on our utilities?
Right.
Would you like to not spend that? Would you like to spend that on playgrounds and other things for the community that the community is going to directly love in the first place? Yeah, we might have to spend less money supporting DTE and Consumers Energy. Sorry about that.
Heaven forbid.
But that's, yeah. So I I don't know, I might look into it. I'm not really, I don't know that my township is really, would have any interest at all, other than, hey, if you could,
Saving money.
yeah, if you could show them the business case. So
Dale,
Financials are there.
Dale, what
What-
township are you in?
I'm in Heartland Township, which is at 23 and 59, straight above, near Brighton and Howell.
Okay.
You know, one advantage with local government buildings is that they're around for a long time, and it's a big investment, but it's a long-term investment, which you know is appropriate for public buildings, right? Because most of them they're not moving out of town. They're going to be there for a while.
Yeah.
But I do think a good mix is if you can make the argument that you're going to save money as well as help the environment.
Yep.
I think that's a very effective message, because when we talk about protecting the environment, depending upon where we live, we frame that differently. There's some conservative parts of the state that are very supportive of hunting and fishing. And so that's how you frame protecting the environment. And that will go over extremely well, because that's hobbies for people and part of their lifestyle. The other thing I just want to mention is that we've been having some discussions about working with GLREA members to more engage their local units of government with educating them about solar and the benefits of it. And so I think this is a very timely discussion on how John and his crew worked with Meridian Township. And so we could potentially, Dale, have some conversations about how you and maybe a few others could potentially approach your township government in Heartland and talk about, you know, how they should consider thinking about going solar.
Yeah.
Yeah, one way to approach it too is, you know, our public works director is assistant manager too for the township. And I'm sure if somebody from your township wanted to visit, he would be, I'm sure, happy to kind of show the person around and kind of talk about what we've done. And, you know, that's a good way to kind of inform people, because you have a peer talking to a peer, somebody who's doing the same job in his township versus your township, and can kind of just answer questions, you know, because he's not trying to make a sale. He's just kind of talking about his personal experience with the township buildings. So that's a way to get started too, if you wanted to, if you found somebody in your township who was interested enough to, you know, drive up to Meridian Township. I'm sure Derek Perry, our public works director, would be happy to kind of show them around.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Yeah.
That happened last week. I was on another session where the city of Lance up in the UP, they have a municipal power company for the city of Lance, but they put together a community solar project, a true community solar project. And the manager of the Lance was perfectly willing to talk to other cities with munis about doing community solar. So I think that kind of sharing the information from one local unit of government official to another is a very effective tactic.
Well, when I started that whole thing in Rockford, I just introduced the concept of what a PPA was. And they were very interested in the idea that they might be able to save money. So we got a proposal from Chart House and for 4 sites in Rockford. And when our lawyer looked at the proposal, he had some questions. They have an investor group out of Maryland. I guess you may be aware of this, but it was just sort of a generic contract. And the lawyer said that somehow the rooftop would end up being a revenue generating thing, and that would cause the city that would compromise their ability to issue bonds. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
Nope.
So then they came back with a different contract where the rooftop is seen as an easement. So does that make sense to you, Dan or Rob? You ever heard of anything like that?
Mindy, let me tell you about lawyers. There are two types of lawyers in the world.
John's a lawyer.
The first kind of lawyer always sees problems with anything that people want to do that's new.
Yeah, that's what
The
we've got.
second kind of lawyer hears what the client wants to do and figures out a way to do it that makes sense. And so it sounds like you're dealing with a lawyer from the first category.
Yeah,
And we need to find a lawyer from the second category to help you. So
Yeah.
why don't you send me an email about the problem and let me see what I can do.
okay, that's great.
Oddly enough, Dan and I actually met in law school, running the Environmental Law Society together at MSU. So I'd like to think we're the
We
good
know a
kind.
fair
I don't
share of
know.
lawyers, so it's- we've met a few of those types.
We have.
Maybe we need to get a proposal from you.
We're always available.
All right.
They're happy to do it. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. We got two law school graduates here who are installing solar panels now, which is good. It's a great thing.
Honest work.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Anything else before we leave? Yeah, Dale?
In the analysis for the payback for the fire hall especially, can you show any payback benefit from reducing demand charges just because you're producing on site, at least in the summertime, on days where it's likely to have high air conditioning load, you're producing energy on site, and you should, in the summertime, probably reduce the peak demand of that location. Do you ever do a calculation like that, and does that show anything?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times that peak demand is going to hit you the hardest right around kind of like that evening time. People coming home from work, that's where everybody's turning on their TVs. Unfortunately, that's also sunset. So really, to get into the demand reduction, it's going to be more beneficial with batteries for it to become something that's quantifiable to the point where it makes a big difference. And it's kind of back to that same issue with batteries, that we're not quite there yet. And we'll also have a better sense of that too, and we can actually then look back in 12 months and then do a comparative analysis, at that point. But I think those reduction of demand charges, like John was saying, is going to become much more viable with storage.
So even like the at the fire station, for instance, like that's its own facility. And so the demand at that place is the demand charge is the highest amount, the highest power rate that you've requested or that you've used during the whole month. That's your charge, I think.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
And so if the fire hall uses the most electric, like you say, like at sunset, they might still have the AC cranking, but during the day when they definitely need the AC and they have the solar, they could be cranking the AC and still sending out to the grid. And then if their control system for the firehouse would do something like, hey, we've got all this free power on the roof right now during the day, we're going to lower the set point and crank it. We're going to make it chilly down to 65 or something. And until about 3 or 4 p.m. when they start to lose the solar, and now they can throttle back the AC, let the temperature start to go up some, and have no demand. So I'm wondering if there's a potential, further way you can sell this kind of system and not use energy from the grid, just by, with smart controls like that in the build in that location. If that's anything anybody thinks about.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. We'll have to kind of talk to our public works director about have they looked at those sorts of issues, because I know they've done a lot of efficiency projects, but I don't know how much control systems they've used. That's a good point.
Yeah,
we'll kind of look into that.
And that's what DTE basically is doing with their I forget what the name of the program is, but if you have a Wi-Fi thermostat, they'll pay you $20 a year to sign up for the program, and then every now and then, when they have high demand days, they'll turn down your thermostat earlier in the day and make you pre-cool potentially, and then when it gets peak, they'll turn your thermostat back up. So your AC potentially will turn off. So,
Yeah, that's demand response.
yeah.
And we talked about this, or
Yep. Yeah. So same type of thing, idea for like a big commercial building. I don't know. You might be able to.
Well,
you'd have to-
that's a good point. Good idea.
You'd have to do some work on what is the facility actually using every hour of the day during the whole year and see what you can do with it. So, all right, thanks.
Thanks, Dale. Yeah. Well, thanks, everybody. And again, thanks, Dan and Rob. And hope to see you next Thursday when we do energy Q&A. So everybody take care.